Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on this 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin, because right now we are seeing a massive pump to the upside. Recently here, we saw a bit of a rejection from this big level of resistance, sitting from 60,000 all the way up to 62.4K. However, after falling back down exactly into our level of support, sitting from 58,000 all the way down to 56,000 US dollars here, we now saw a perfect bounce back into this level of resistance here. And besides that, we are now also seeing a break above this descending trend line here for Bitcoin. Although at the same time, if you zoom out a little bit to the 1-day time frame, here you can see another trend line that we are currently right on top of. So this is something important to actually pay attention to right now in terms of a short-term level of resistance, especially if we close the daily candle below this level here, then potentially we could see a rejection back down from this descending trend line. Besides that, if we take a look at the Fibonacci levels for Bitcoin, earlier today we broke above this 0.5 level, sitting at 59.5K. However, there are some short-term warning signals starting to flash and things you should be paying attention to. For example, this big level of resistance here, which is the Fibonacci golden pocket, sitting between 62 and 62.7K for the Bitcoin price, because usually this Fibonacci golden pocket will be a strong level of resistance for Bitcoin. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because if we take a look at the 1-hour time frame for Bitcoin, one thing you may notice is that in my last video here, we were basically in oversold territory. I was saying there is limited room to the downside right now, because when the RSI is in oversold territory, usually you need to see the RSI reset back to around this 50 level here before then making its next move either to the upside or to the downside. Now, in this case, we clearly made a move to the upside, right? However, we are now in overbought territory on the 1-hour RSI once again. Now, yes, it is completely possible that the RSI moves a bit higher here in the immediate short term, although I do think that we are going to see this RSI reset back down to around that 50 level here for Bitcoin. Now, how does the RSI actually reset back down from overbought territory? Well, it could be, for example, something like this, where we go up to this level of resistance here. Either way, the point is you either get some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bearish momentum in the short term. So in the case of sideways momentum, it would look something like this in the RSI. And if we are actually getting a bit of a pullback here, then the RSI would reset down more quickly and even go past below this 50 level here, because whenever the RSI is below 50, this means that we are experiencing bearish momentum on that specific time frame that we are taking a look at. Now, taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, first of all, on the 3-day time frame, right here you can see quite a bit of liquidity to the upside, sitting at 61.7K with about $200 million worth of short positions that would get liquidated if the Bitcoin price reaches this level. However, again, on this 3-day time frame, we just took out quite a bit of liquidity to the upside in this recent move to the upside here. So there is now also a lot of liquidity that is piled up towards the downside. On the 3-day time frame, this is actually as low as about 57,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. So therefore, this is something to take into account after a big move to the upside. Sometimes you need to see a bit of a retracement back down in order to grab some of that downside liquidity. If we now zoom out to the 1-week time frame, we also see a bit of an interesting story here. You can see that, again, we just took out a lot of liquidity to the upside. And now on the 1-week time frame, most of the liquidity is actually to the downside, as low as 55K, and most of the liquidity being at 57,000 US dollars. So this is a potential warning signal in the short term, because in the case that you don't know, typically the Bitcoin price gets attracted to where there is the most liquidity in this chart. And I'm showing you some different time frames because there is a difference between the different time frames. Now, lastly, for these heat maps, if you take a look at the 3-month time frame, then it shows a bit of a different story, because we have a lot of liquidity to the upside, as high as, let's say, 71,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. and we have a lot of liquidity to the downside, as low as 43,000 for the Bitcoin price. So because we have been trading sideways, a lot of people are now long and a lot of people are now short. And we are basically waiting for some kind of answer of what is going to happen next here in the Bitcoin price. And I think there could be a potential signal for us in the charts that not a lot of people are actually taking a look at, which is this RSI downtrend here for Bitcoin. Because what you may notice is that on this 1 week time frame, we are now actually above this descending trend line for Bitcoin in the RSI. So the RSI is simply a momentum indicator for Bitcoin. And right now we are potentially breaking a downtrend in the RSI. So this could be a very early signal for us that at some point we are actually going to see a reversal to the upside for Bitcoin and then start to see much higher price action for the Bitcoin price. But again, as I just said, we have 5 days left on this weekly candle, so we haven't seen a confirmed breakout yet. And secondly, this could still take quite a bit of time to actually play out, because you would get a move above. Potentially, we would actually come back down to flip this into a level of support. I don't know if it will really play out like this, but we will have to wait and see. But then only once we start to really get somewhat above this 50 level here, this is actually when bullish momentum starts to pick up. So it is very interesting to see how this is going to play out. Are we now going to see that breakout to the upside and see much higher price action for Bitcoin? Or are we closing this week below the RSI trend line? That is something we will have to wait and see. But I just thought I would start mentioning it already because I think this is a very interesting time in the market here. Now, lastly, for the Bitcoin ETF flow tables, yesterday we saw a net inflow of about $12 million. Nothing too much interesting going on here. So I will simply get back to this tomorrow when we have more data coming in here, but I just thought I would mention it just so you are up to date. Either way, this has been today's market update. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and turn on notifications so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Regardless if you do end up subscribing with notifications or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.